Hello my loyal companions, welcome back to the channel and to another complete rogue guide. Today we're going to be having a look at Ronin. As always, I'm going to be going over her kit, looking at the different weapons, abilities and perks. Then I'm going to be going over an upgrade priority system so you know exactly what to buy when you're in game. And then finally I'm going to give you some playstyle tips to play her a little bit more effectively. If you do go on to enjoy the video or learn something new, make sure you drop a like and subscribe to the channel. But for now, let's get into it. I've always talked about Ronin as being a great rogue for newer players to start getting into the game with, not only because you play her in the tutorial, but also because of her kit is really good and really adaptable for newer players to start learning the basic mechanics of the game. Her weapons are built to vary amongst the different ranges, her perks give you a good overview of what the game is about with good gadgets and a lot of things that complement a really versatile playstyle, from really defensive to aggressive to flanking to setting up and holding down a long line of sight. Whatever it be, Ronin can do it. But let's start by breaking down her kit, and we're going to look at her passive first, which is Underground. This allows Ronin to avoid detection on the radar. So the minimap that is on the top left of your screen, Ronin does not appear on that, and that has two really good functions. The first of these instances is that when you shoot in the game, you appear on your enemy's minimap. With Ronin, because of her passive, she won't. This offers you an ability to do a bit more of a flank. It's not super useful because they'll hear the shots and they'll kind of know where you are anyway, but it means they don't know your exact location, so you can be a bit more sneaky. It also is a direct counter to Talon, whose main ability is the dart that he throws down that reveals an area on that minimap. Ronin is the only rogue who is immune to that, which is another really good counter built within her kit. Her main ability also adds for some versatility, and this is called Ballistic Knife. Activating this ability equips Ronin with a ballistic knife. This can be thrown, and if it hits a surface, it will stick to that surface and act as a trip mine so that any enemies who walk over it within 3 meters will detonate it, causing 100 damage in a blast radius. If you directly hit an enemy, it will explode on impact. This ability can be used in many different ways that we'll get onto as we go through this guide. Let's take a look now at Ronin's weapons, which offer her a lot of versatility. The first weapon that we're going to look at is the KA-30, which is the same assault rifle that Dima has. It's a very versatile assault rifle, being pretty good up close, really good in the mid-range, and then okay at the longer ranges as well, preferably a tap fire at the very long range, but it's still pretty good across all those ranges. At tier 1 you upgrade it, increasing the magazine size from 30 to 40. At tier 2 you increase its hipfire accuracy, which is really good for up close, and at tier 3 you increase its damage range, which is really good for long range. Her second primary weapon is the SLC, which is a submachine gun and a very fast fire rate SMG, not quite as fast as Dahlia's, but a very close second. The issue with this weapon is it has a lot of recoil, but as you upgrade to tier 1 you increase its magazine size from a base 30 to 40. At tier 2 you increase its hipfire accuracy, and at tier 3 you do suppress its fire and reduce that recoil slightly. And honestly, when you get all 3 upgrades in this, it's a pretty beastly gun. Before that it does have quite a lot of kick that can be hard to get used to, but that's why it's built for very close, up close and personal fights. The preferred weapon here generally depends on your situation. This is why Ronin is so good, because she's so versatile. Most of the time though, I'm opting for the KA-30 just because this game is played at a little bit longer range than submachine guns are useful for, although there are instances and maps where you could run the SMG. It just depends on whether you think you're going to be up close and personal with the enemies all the time, for example a map like Icarus. But if you think you're going to be holding some maybe mid-range angles to the sight, you may want to opt for the KA-30 because it's still good at up close, but is just better for those longer range engagements should you get into them. Then going on to her secondary weapons, her pistol is the Spitfire, which is the fully automatic pistol with 15 rounds. As you upgrade this, you increase the rounds from 15 to 20, and at tier 2 you suppress its fire and reduce its recoil. This, if you opt for the K30, is really good to pull out as a secondary because of how much damage it can do up close and personal, so it's actually quite good to balance the two with each other. Her other secondary weapon is the Katana melee weapon, which is the more versatile melee weapon, offering really good swing damage or throw damage as you upgrade it. In tier 1 you increase that throw damage to 125, so it can one-shot people with armor, and at tier 2 you increase the body damage of the swing to 50, so it can two-shot people without armor. Her gadgets are really good for her kit. She has the smoke grenade, which is obviously the grenade that can block off good lines of sight and obscure enemy vision. As you upgrade this to tier 1, you increase the smoke duration and also slow enemy movement within it, and then at tier 2 you are able to get a second one of these. Her other gadget is the grenade, which is your standard frag grenade thrown projectile, which has a cook time, so you can manipulate when it explodes from when it leaves your hand. As you upgrade this to tier 1, you increase the explosion radius, and at tier 2, you increase the explosion damage from 100 to 125. Both of these gadgets offer a lot of good use in her kit, whether it be defensively or offensively. They both have a really good ability and versatility for her to use. Now let's go on to her perks. So her first 4,000 perk is Berserker. The next 4,000 perk is Evade. In the 6,500 category, she has Tenacity and Nimble Hands. And then at 10,000, she has Replenish and Tracker Rounds. The ones here that mean the most to me is Tenacity, obviously, is so strong, it is a must. Nimble Hands can be good, although you either need to pick between Nimble Hands or Replenish. Both are good, but there's no point getting both because they both essentially reload your weapon faster. Replenish obviously would be the better choice because it reloads it off of a down, and Nimble Hands allows you to reload just quicker at any point. I would never really recommend getting both of these, you don't need them. So depending on how much money you have, and we'll see this in the upgrade priority, pick one or the other. Tracker Rounds is meh. It's a new addition to her since the removal of Sixth Sense. It's good in solo queue, but isn't if you're in a coordinated team because generally you're giving callouts anyway. Evade can be useful just to survive a bit longer, and then Berserker doesn't have a lot of use in this game in its current state. Let's now go on to the upgrade priority, which I mentioned. Now, as usual, you'll see the high priority, which are things that you really should be buying and you need to focus in the exact order I mentioned. Then you have your interchangeable, which are things you should buy, but you can mess with the order depending on the situation. And then your low priority or situational, which you should never really buy unless you have excess money or you want it for a very particular reason. Starting with the noticeable things though, in round 1 you want to either be picking up the smoke grenade or the frag grenade. For me this depends on whether I'm attack or defense or the particular map. For example, if I'm attacking I tend to use a smoke grenade because a lot of push routes in comp rely on that smoke grenade a lot more, but I may also opt for the grenade standardly, and on defense I tend to get the grenade anyway because you don't necessarily use smokes for defense. Because it can kind of mess with your own vision, you're better at holding the angle, so there's not a lot of use of the smoke. As you move into round 2 though, you want to pick up your primary weapon of choice depending on the situations I mentioned, and then at round 3 you want to be trying to be picking up Tenacity as a must. Tenacity is really strong, it is a core part of her kit, and alongside that you should also look to get the other utility, particularly if you got the smoke first, definitely get the grenade. If you got the grenade first and you don't think you need the smoke, then you can skip it. Then as you move throughout the later rounds, I would definitely recommend picking up a melee weapon if you're comfortable with them. They're great to have in your back pocket should you need it. And then you want to be focusing on the weapon upgrades. Both weapons really excel by having weapon upgrades, so I would put your early investment after Tenacity into those for sure. Beyond that, if you have the smoke grenade, I recommend getting the full smoke upgrade. Getting 2 of them and getting that slow when you throw them at an enemy is really good. Then you can look at either getting Nimble Hands or Replenish. As I spoke about the distinction, you really want one or the other. Then you can look at getting a fully upgraded grenade, and that's pretty much going to take you to the end of the 6 rounds in Demolition, and you should have a really good kit built up from all of that. Let's now go on to some playstyle tips with Ronin. I'm going to start by going over her ability and some different ways that you can use the ballistic knife. So as I mentioned, you can stick it to surfaces, and what this allows you to do if you get really good positioning on it is you can use it as a trip mine to help guard a flank or stop a particular position from being open and vulnerable to you, and this is really good. I really like this, and this is generally what you will start using it as because the other ways are a little bit more complicated. The key with this is that you don't just throw it in the middle of the floor. You want to somehow put it in a bit of a position where it can't be seen or can't be shot easily, because if they know it's there, it's got an audible cue, they can just shoot it and then it's kind of lost its job. You'll hear it explode, but at the end of the day, you really want to get a kill with it, don't you? So put it somewhere it's hard to see. At the top of door frames is a really big one, on the side of door frames, behind a box, or somewhere where the enemy isn't likely to see it and they'll run over it. Also on some wall jumps, you can jump between the walls of certain maps. On the other side of the wall jump can be really good. You just got to be careful that they don't shoot it through the wall. I think there's a bug at the moment. So just maybe throw it on the floor at the end of the wall jump. They'll still jump over it and should die to it. Other ways you can use it is you can use it really aggressively to try and stick someone with it, same way you would use a normal melee weapon. Its throw slightly different and it's a smaller target for sure, but if you throw it, it will do good damage and you can really excel off using this well. You just got to try and stick them with it. It will blow them up and blow up anyone around them as well, so you can get a few knocks, and this is one aggressive way to use it. But there is another aggressive way of using it, and this is a little bit more niche and requires really good reflexes and timing on your part, and you can use it as almost like a very quick fire grenade. You can throw it down at the feet of your enemy, if say they're behind cover, you throw it down next to them, then you shoot it immediately as soon as you can. It will explode off of you shooting it and deal damage in that area without them having to walk over it or being able to roll away before it primes and is able to detonate. This is a really good strategy and what you'll see a lot of good Ronins do. Throw it behind the cover, throw it at someone's feet, shoot it immediately, blow it up and get a few downs off of it, and this is a really strong mechanic. One word of warning though, and sort of another piece of advice I have for you with Ronin, is you need to remember that your dart will only do 100 damage, meaning it will only kill people without Headstrong, without the additional 25 armor. It won't kill Vi if she's got any poison damage healing, and it won't kill Shark if he's using his overheal, and it also won't kill anyone with Tenacity who will have reduced damage. There's a lot of things that do counter it now with the recent change that they added. It used to do 125 damage, which would counter a lot of those instances, but now it only does 100, so do be aware of that. Other tips I have for Ronin is that she is so versatile, you need to be able to adapt your playstyle in the game to the different situations you might need. This may be choosing a different piece of equipment, choosing a different weapon for the right circumstance, or choosing a different playstyle altogether. She can be played as sort of this mid-range, long-range rogue, tap firing that AR, holding down long lines of sight, holding down medium lines of sight, and offering just a standard sort of role within the team, nothing fancy, just a good backup rogue, a good flex pick to have somewhere on your roster. But she can also be played as this really quick SMG flanking type, maybe pairing up with a Lancer, particularly if they have a Talon and they're trying to rely on that dart for coverage of the flank. You can run straight through that without being seen because of your passive, and you can act as this really good flanking role as well. Or likewise, you can just sit around a corner, wait, be a really good defensive position, wait for them to peek you using the third person peek, and then you'll kill them off of that. There's lots of different playstyles that Ronin can adopt, and you as a Ronin player need to start practicing with all of them and learning them all individually for the right circumstances. This is actually why I recommend Ronin for newer players, because you can play her for so long and get really good with her and the different ways that she can be played. She's not like Lancer where there's sort of only really one playstyle, or Phantom where there's only one sort of playstyle. You know, you can do a lot of different things with Ronin, and that's why she's so good at giving you the core mechanics of the game. You learn 2 amazing guns which help you in all different circumstances. You learn a playstyle or a few playstyles that can really help in different situations, and she just offers you a lot of ability to do different things, which is exactly what new players need when they're learning the game, because they get the core mechanics down, then they just have to worry about different playstyles, and then once they got that down, they can then start focusing on map knowledge and other things. Ronin is a really big recommended pick for me, whether you're new, whether you're sort of average at the game, or whether you're phenomenal at the game. She's definitely a part of my roster for competitive play, just because of how useful she is and how versatile she is given different situations. I definitely recommend picking her up if she's not already in your roster. Make sure you add her there. She's a S tier pick through and through in my books, so she's definitely worth it. Okay then guys, that takes us to the end of the video. If you did enjoy, make sure you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. You can also come follow me on twitch.tv/radbargaming to see live game commentaries, guides, Q&As, tournaments and scrims. All the links you're going to need for that are down in the description below. But for now guys, I hope you have a fantastic day, and remember, be loyal, be brave, be relentless, and I'll catch you in the next video.